Lads, lasses, and the rest of the masses, welcome back to the Grayscale, the series where we take things from the previous Chelsea game and weigh them up on a scale from good to medium to bad, and then, of course, at the end, we will vote for our grey grade. Now, this was a game that was pretty perfect in terms of everything that we kind of wanted to see. We got to see a few things that we didn't expect to see. We got to see a few things that we did expect to see, and more importantly than most, Chelsea obviously are through to the semi-finals. And though we were very much expected to win this game, it still felt like it was a tough test for us, and I think that we put in a pretty professional performance, not only from a technical standpoint, but from a kind of grit and heart and fight perspective as well. I think the team has transformed in recent times in this kind of last run that we've had during this season, that into this kind of formidable side. It's not just kind of luck at this point. We are very much consistently picking up results, consistently defending well, and consistently getting further in tournaments. And being able to win those knockout games is something that is really, really important for us to see, and to kind of breed that winning mentality into the side. Now, I mentioned it briefly there, but I think this is the first point that's going to go into here is for the good box. Is going to be for our two centre backs. I'm going to group them together as a joint point here, but Trevor Chalobah and Levi Colwill were absolutely superb in this game. I want to give credit specifically to them individually, even though they're a good unit together. I want to give them credit individually because they both were doing kind of different things in the game, which I think was really important. Chalobah was, for the most part, the kind of centre back that was sweeping up at the back. He was the one that was dealing with the long balls when they went over. Obviously, we were pressing quite high in this game, forcing long balls to happen. They were taking a lot of goal kicks really long, and most of the time when they played the ball back to the goalkeeper of Everton, he was launching it forward. And Chalobah was usually the one who was dealing with this, whether it's winning the aerial duels when the ball goes over to him, or just shepherding it behind and then recycling the ball to our goalkeeper. He was very, very good at doing this. Again, I think his 1v1 defending was pretty decent, as it often is, and he's showing still how valuable he can be to this team. And I think he's really, really kind of proven himself now in this last kind of run that I mentioned, that he can be a reliable centre-back option for us, and we don't really need to look for another right-sided centre-back, because he can definitely fill in that role. As for Colwill, I think that he gets kind of more plaudits because of how well he defended, and specifically for a few blocks that he made, which were absolutely superb. The thing which I want to give him credit for specifically is his passing, because we always talk about Colwill's passing. It was a big kind of factor when he was coming into the team, that we were saying we saw how good his passing was at Brighton and how good he was at, playing those balls over the top, playing those direct passes. In this system, when he plays as the central centre back, it's the important kind of role that central centre back needs to have is to be able to play the ball through the lines, get it to our midfielders, and then get those midfielders on the turn and going forward and on the transition. I think he was so good at doing that in the game, and it's something it's a good kind of versatile thing that we have with Cole, is that he can play in that left-sided role where he can, operate as an auxiliary centre-back to Tosin if Tosin's playing in the centre, or he himself can play in the centre. I think he's really, really come into his own now, and he's really become one of those leaders in the team as well, and he's obviously, defending very, very well, passing very, very well. He doesn't really make those same kind of silly mistakes that had been making when he was first coming into the team under Enzo Maresca. Now he seems like he is the first choice in the defence, and he is hopefully going to stay there for a very, very long time. Now, from a player that we expect to be in the starting 11 every single time, to a player that we didn't even think was going to be in the starting 11 and originally wasn't in the starting 11, let's talk about Andre Santos. This kid is absolutely wonderful, and I give him credit, not just because he put in a very good defensive performance. Again, he phenomenally in the challenge. He was always winning his duels, as he often does, being able to intercept the ball and being that shield to the back line. But the link up that he had with Enzo Fernandez in the middle was really, really exciting to see, because you could see that there was a clear understanding between the two of that they want to be able to pass it around, do those 1-2s, get through the lines. And as I kind of hinted about with Colwill, that ability to get past that first press and get past that first line is really, really important for a team that wants to play possession-based football like we do. And the quick little 1-2s between him and Enzo were really, really good to see, especially considering they haven't really played much together. So that's really good to see. I think it was very, very mature from him, not only taking the chance when he was given it, because obviously he hasn't been given the most chances, and obviously there's rumours that he wasn't really performing much in training, or he wasn't really understanding the system very much. Obviously he's been touted as being Enzo's understudy, but he really showed that he can play as this deeper player in the game. And from that kind of deeper position, he was, again, defensively really solid, but progressively really good as well. And I want to give him specific credit as well for the fact that he wasn't originally in the starting 11. He wasn't expecting to play this game. It was supposed to be Reece James who played, but he apparently felt some tightness when he was kind of doing the warm-up, and they've replaced him during the warm-up, and he has stepped in. And again, it's almost like he was supposed to be in there, right? He didn't felt like he was a last-minute replacement. It felt like he was already intended to be there, and he really, really proved himself. And it's just another one of the kind of Brazilian excellence that we saw in this game. We saw a lot of that from obviously Palmeiras, but also from us. And we can move on swiftly in that regard to the next player that I'm going to be putting in here. And that is another player that, again, most people didn't expect to see, because he hasn't really trained with us. He's had 2 training sessions. He's just been on holiday. He's come back from holiday, and he's put in an absolute wonder class of a performance. Is João Pedro. Off the bench, which, again, I kind of actually touted him to start. I thought that he might have been thrown in the deep end that way. He was actually still thrown in the deep end, but not in the way that we kind of expected. He was a bench player. He played in a position that I didn't expect him to play, because he was playing down the centre, and it felt like he hasn't just been thrown into the team randomly. Like, it felt like he's been playing with us for a long time. The thing which I kind of talked about with Santos, with him having that link up between him and Enzo, the Enzo Pedro combination was genuinely like so good. They felt like, again, it felt like they'd been playing together for 2 years, not 2 days. And the hold up play that he had, the little link up, the ability to get the players kind of going forward when we were under pressure from that press when we we're trying to build out, was really, really good. He seemed to instantly understand exactly what he needed to do as a centre forward in this system. We always see Jackson do it, where he drops deep into the midfield and tries to link up things, hold up the ball. We've seen Liam Delap do it recently as he's come into the fold. João Pedro has done it so well in this game, and it was genuinely astonishing. Like, every single time that we had basically something go well in that second half after he came on was through him. He was the one getting the ball all the time. He was the one, knocking it back to his teammates, and kind of providing for them. He almost gets a goal right at the end of the half with some really neat dribbling too. It was a really, really impressive performance from him, and the only thing it really did lack was that goal. If he got that goal, I think this would have been genuinely a man of the match performance. He was so good, and in limited minutes, and he probably, even though he was ready to go, he probably did not expect to play, if I'm being completely honest. And the fact that he has gotten in to this team over someone like Nicholas Jackson, who has obviously been very reliable for us as that hold-up player, the fact that he's getting into the team ahead of him after 2 days of training, it really suggests that he has done something really, really impressive in those training sessions to warrant getting that place ahead of him. And yeah, long may it continue. I really hope that we get to see more of him, and I do think, spoiler alert for my preview, I do think in the next round he will be the starting striker for that game. Now, I mentioned Enzo Fernandez a lot there when I talked about those two. Unfortunately, he's not going to be one of the players that I talk about in this kind of box, because I think that he kind of went under the radar in terms of how good he was, but he didn't really make too much of an impact for me to talk about him in full. However, there's another midfielder that played in that kind of 10 role that I'm going to be talking about today, and that is Cole Palmer. Now, he gets our first goal in 16 minutes, and it's a really, really classic Cole Palmer goal. And I felt like he's slowly started to be getting that confidence back in this tournament recently. He's kind of, he's taking on the strikes. He's trying to make things happen, which is kind of something that he admitted in that Europa League final, where he basically said, you know what, I was sick of myself not really just playing forward, so I decided let's just go forward. I think he's really started to come into his own again, and hopefully this is the start. Now that he's broken this kind of curse, as it will, this duck, I hope this is the start of him really getting back into that goal scoring form. The goal itself is phenomenal. The pass from, again, Trevor Chalobah, who was really good in that first half. That pass from him is really good. The touch and turn from Palmer is so smart. He gets into space, he puts it into the bottom corner. And the thing which I wanted to speak about around him specifically, and I mentioned this on my watch along, we saw footage of him before the game training right-footed shots, which was something that we're not really used to seeing from Palmer. He's obviously a very one-sided player, and a lot of the kind of experience we've seen with him is that he always kind of favors his left foot and doesn't really like to put it on his right foot very much. He was clearly training on his right-footed shots in that session that we saw. And I think part of that is because he's been given this free role where he can roam and he can go onto the left side or the right side. So sometimes when he gets the ball on the left, he kind of wants to put it onto his right to take shots. And he took a few right-footed shots in that first half, and though most of them were saved by Everton or were really close, so good to see him working on himself that way. And again, good to see him getting that kind of confidence back. You can see now that maybe it was after that training session where he was scoring some good long ranges and having some confidence on that right foot. Maybe he feels a lot better now, and he felt confident enough to take his goal really smartly. I usually say when you get a goal contribution, you get into the boxes. So there we go. He goes in there, and again, he gets our player of the match, I believe, even though the actual superior player of the match that the Club World Cup gave out went to a different player. More on that later. But yeah, phenomenal from Palmer. Hopefully he can keep it up and we can keep seeing this kind of good goal scoring form return. The next thing which I'm going to be putting into the good box is for a player that I don't think gets enough credit and hasn't really gotten enough credit for how good he has played in these Club World Cup games, and that's Malo Gusto. Now, he doesn't get credited with the goal at the end, but it is his goal, let's be honest. Let's not sugarcoat things. Obviously, again, Enzo Fernandez gets a link-up play here, and he probably should be in the box if this did count as an assist. Obviously, it doesn't because it's not an actual goal for Malo Gusto, but he's the one who scores the goal, and in general, I think he played really well. And credit goes to Enzo Maresca now because he's moved into this new kind of system that we've seen, this 3-1-4-2 kind of system, and it's really opened up the door for a certain amount of players that kind of felt like they weren't really here. And another one included is obviously Nkunku, and these two, this is going to be a kind of a joint point with these two, right? Because these two felt like they were completely out the door. They're the usual suspects, as I like to call them. They were the two that kind of, every time there was something bad happening in our team, it was these two, it was coming from these two. I think they've really stepped up. Obviously, Nkunku's now playing in this left-sided role or in the 10 role, and it suits him so much better than playing as a striker. Us bringing in multiple strikers in the window in Pedro and Delap has obviously helped with that because he doesn't need to fill in there. So he's played a lot better. I think that Gusto in this new role where he can play almost like a right wing back at times, where he can get back and show his defensive solidity in 1v1 scenarios, because that is what he's very good at doing, but also show that burst of pace to run up the pitch and overlap or underlap in some cases. And it was that kind of overlapping play that really impressed me. And again, I spoke about this with Palmer in terms of the confidence. That's the thing which really kind of shined for me in this game, is that Gusto's confidence seems so much higher than it has done in recent games. Obviously, he's clearly a player that has been affected by his poor form and affected by, playing in this inside role where he can't really show his good qualities because he's not the technically greatest player on the ball. That's perfectly fine. He doesn't really need to be. He's a fullback that can obviously use his energy to get up and down the pitch, use his defensive work to kind of, stop us from getting loads of danger. And for the most part, I think he defended pretty solidly. He doesn't really do that inversion into the midfield anymore. He plays almost like a right-sided centre mid, and being able to get up and down. And again, there's the thing which I love from him, and again, it shows that confidence he has, is that after he scores his goal, and obviously it's not given to him, but he doesn't know that he scores his goal. There's literally about 30 seconds later, after we get the ball, he runs about 90 yards down the pitch after taking a 1-2 to get another ball into the box for João Pedro, and it nearly pays off to get it for João Pedro, but the defender gets in front of him. I think it's Bruno Fuchs who gets in front of him and stops him from being able to connect cleanly with the shot. But again, and that final ball was really good. It's something we haven't really seen from Gusto, is how good his crossing can be. A lot of the time he kind of puts things wayward and he's a bit rushed, but he seemed like, again, it was that kind of rejuvenation, this new rejuvenated kind of confidence that he's got to kind of play, as we know he can do, because he is a good player. We've always said this. I've always said this especially. Gusto has not just turned into a terrible player. As they say, class is permanent, form is temporary, and I think that last season he just had a bit of a stinky season. We know from the Mauricio Pochettino season how good he can be, and that doesn't just go away, you know. He can get back to that, and he seems to be slowly in this Club World Cup actually getting back to that form. Same kind of thing with Nkunku. I think that Nkunku, obviously now playing in a role that kind of suits him a bit more, he might genuinely be working himself back into the team, which is surprising considering he was kind of seen as like the first one out the door in terms of not wanting to be here. He seems like he's settled into this new position, and obviously he can play off the left like he did in this game, and he was pretty decent. I'm not going to say that he had a fantastic game or anything, but he was pretty good in his link up. He can obviously play in the 10 when Palmer's not playing there as well, so he's hopefully rejuvenated his career as well. Now, unfortunately, we do have to move into a bad here, and it's not for anything particularly that we've done. It's more so just for kind of some of the rulings of the Club World Cup, but also just some unfortunate circumstances, and it's going to be for suspensions and injuries. We've got so many of these are coming out from this game. It's kind of unfortunate. Obviously, Lavia seems to have picked up some kind of injury in training. He hasn't featured. James obviously is feeling tightness, so he didn't feature. Maybe that's just a precaution, but hopefully he's not out for a long time, but that's still a worry. Obviously, Levi Colwill gets yellow carded, and these silly Club World Cup rules means that if you get, 2 yellow cards throughout the whole tournament, you get suspended, which I think is utterly ridiculous. We do get Moises Caicedo coming back, but we obviously, I said, we lost Levi Colwill, we've lost Liam Delap as well. I think he's been suspended. I'm not sure if there's any more, there might be, but we are losing players, and it's getting to the tail end of this tournament. We obviously want to have the majority of our squad if we can. It's just a bit of a concern because we are having to, throw in different players, and this is part of the reason why I said earlier I think that Joao Pedro might start the next games, because Delap's not going to be there, and I don't think Jackson will play considering he seems to be going down the pecking order. It is just a bit worrying that we are slowly kind of hemorrhaging players, and again with those important players like Lavia and James not being there, that really spells a bit of danger. However, with the kind of resurgence with obviously Santos coming in, Sugo can play in the middle as well, I think that we kind of will be fine. It is just something that we need to be concerned about because we are going to have to change things up as we go into the semi-finals. Now, the final player that I'm going to talk about here, and this might genuinely be the first time I've ever done this, I'm not sure. It's not going to be for a Chelsea player, and obviously this is a bonus point. I've already done my 7 points. This is a bonus. It's not for a Chelsea player, and he's going in the medium box because, again, this is not a good thing for us to kind of take, but it's a good thing for the future. And you guys know who I'm talking about. It's Estival. Now, this, the reason why I put them in the mediums is obviously, again, it's not good to concede ever, and that is frustrating that we conceded, but it's very nice to see a player that is going to be headed to the bridge next season playing so well in a team where he is really kind of seen as the superstar, right? He had a really impressive performance, not only just because, again, he was their player of the match, he was the superior player of the match given by the Club World Cup in general. His goal is absolutely phenomenal, and for the most part, I think that him and Cucurella had a pretty balanced, kind of even fight, as it were, on that kind of right-hand side, where obviously he was playing in a kind of role where you could drift from the middle to the right side and take on players wide. We're probably going to use him as a touchline winger when he eventually comes over here and plays for us. And it kind of shows how good he is and the level he's already got so young. The fact that he was able to compete with arguably, and for me unarguably, the best left back on the planet at the moment, getting the better of him on multiple occasions. Obviously it was kind of, as I said, it was kind of even. He was losing some, winning some, but it's good to see him being able to have the confidence to take on players and playing so well against a Premier League level defense. And this is a really good defense as well, this Chelsea defense. We don't really hype it up enough, I don't think, how good our defense has gotten in these last few kind of months of this season. And him playing so well against that is a very good thing to see, and it bodes well for the future if he's going to be coming into this side. Obviously, we've seen some other players coming into the side as well. Obviously, Jamie Gittins has now been confirmed too. He was on the pitch before he was even announced, which I think is very funny. So the future of this club is very bright, especially in those wing areas. And yeah, I think that he just had overall a very good performance. Most things that went well for them in that game came through him, and hopefully that translates to Chelsea Blue as well when he eventually comes to us, that we can have that kind of influence over the game from that right side. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like down below. It really helps out the channel and me. And for more videos like this, please don't forget to subscribe as well. That's the best way to get these videos into your sub box, and again, it supports the channel massively. Thank you guys for watching so much as ever, and remember, football can be as simple as black and white.
Something ain't right, I'm drowning in the ocean. I'm still alive, but I feel the fall in motion. I lost the fight and now I'm finally floating, but I still try to hide my emotion. Who am I in pieces? I've been broken. It's black and white, but my eyes are finally